Greetings, everyone. Welcome once again to another cold edition. Hopefully we can warm it up with the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Teacher Certification course. My name is William Krause, and if you would all be seated, thank you for the warm welcome. I needed that. It's very cold. And for those that are joining us online, you can go ahead and we are in the Building Moral Excellence unit of the Peaceful Solution Program, which is the high school character unit. We're in Chapter 3, Maintaining Your Positive Character. And our goal, our positive goal for this evening, which is hopefully achievable, will be to finish this chapter and move on for the next teacher. So we'll get right to it. We'll open up our books. I left off in the last class. Let's see. We were talking about straight talk. Yeah, we were in straight talk. And I almost finished that little square there. But before we go and do that, let's go ahead and go back to the and look at the purpose objective of the lesson. Let's look at LP 3, page F11. So lesson plan 3, page F11. And we'll wrap this one up. It says, explain to students that by maintaining a positive character, they will earn the reputation of being a person of integrity. It says, have the class turn to page 135 and 136 in their handbook and choose students to read the sections entitled Your Reputation Precedes You. And remember, David covered that pretty extensively, and I went back over it again in the last class regarding reputation. And straight talk. It says, test class comprehension by asking these questions. Explain why maintaining a moral character results in positive reputation. And we learned that your reputation is a reflection of the choices you make about how you treat others and yourself. And a person's reputation can set the stage for whether they are accepted or rejected. Remember, your reputation either creates barriers or it opens doors, okay, for more opportunities. And B, on the comprehension phase, it says, why is it important to focus on maintaining a moral character even if others make fun of you? And the answer is compromising your moral character in order to be accepted or have others not make fun of you will only lead to poor choices that could result in serious short and long-term consequences, including having a reputation of being I hate to say follower, but because you should be a follower. You should follow what's right. You know, you should be a follower, an imitator of the Peaceful Solution Program. But you shouldn't be following immoral conduct or immoral examples. So you'll get a bad reputation of being a troublemaker, etc. So let's go ahead and finish this up by going over to page 136. And I have a visual, I think, where we left off. Remember, I was talking about not allowing anyone to bully or tease you. This is on page 136. Into making poor choices, be determined to maintain your integrity for the reasons we just went over. It's okay to be different, especially if you know what you're doing is moral, respectful, and beneficial to your life and others. You also want to control your emotions. Remember what we talked, and specifically, remember this chapter, as we're going to cover tonight, it went over the emotion of anger because it's one of the most misunderstood, but it's also one of the most, can be the most dangerous if it's not controlled properly. It says, it can be very hurtful when people make fun of you or treat you like an outsider because you refuse to stoop to their level. It says, remember that controlling your emotions is a sign of maturity, so don't let anger and resentment build in your mind. Recall what we learned in this chapter about storing anger in your liver. You know, for instance, when you store anger and resentment, it affects different body parts, like your liver, for instance, and can cause internal damage. Okay, not just mental, but internal damage. That's why anger should never rest within you. You shouldn't let it rest in you. What you should do is you should deal with it in a healthy way and get rid of it and let it go. And that's what it tells us here. Talk to someone you can trust to vent any frustrations you might be feeling and let it go. That's right, let it go. Don't waste your time focusing on the negative and inconsiderate actions of others. Focus instead on building a positive character, because in the end, you will be the winner. You'll be the winner. You won't be the winner. We won't be the winner if we lash out and retaliate in any way, shape, or form. You know, we won't be a loser either in that respect, but it will show us that we need to work on that. It's something that we need to get, you know, we need to exercise our positive character muscle, so to speak, of self-control and determination to not give up. And also, you know, remember all the positive character traits that we went over on page, in fact, if we went back there right now to page 20, it's, you know, some of the character traits you would be practicing when you don't give in to this, you know, kind of behavior would be patience, discipline, being respectful, being forgiving, being humble. Remember, humble means not being proud or arrogant, so you're not going to want to fight back. You're not going to want to get the last word, right, etc. Also, you would be considerate if you do that. It would show self-control, and it would show that you're decisive about, you know, making the right choices and not giving in to the negativity. So let's go back to the slide there. So we're done with that slide, I think. Let's go to the next slide, because I saw an article on the internet this morning that I wanted to kind of address a little bit, because I agree with Pope Francis that about the bullying. It's something that, you know, he came out with yesterday. I think he said that it says Pope Francis says that bullying in schools prepares students for war rather than peace. Okay, and we're in complete agreement with that. I mean, we're in agreement that bullying should have never started in the school, you know. But remember, bullying doesn't just start in the school, and it's just not restricted to the schools. It's also in workplaces. It's in homes. It's everywhere you go. It could be on the bus, the metro bus, or, you know, pretty much everywhere you go, there's forms of bullying taking place, whether it's husbands bullying their wives, whether it's children bullying their pets, whether it's a child on a playground bullying another child, etc. There's many types of bullying, whether it's a nation bullying another nation, like we see constantly taking place with threats of war and retaliation if another nation doesn't bend to the will of another nation and submit to their demands. That's all bullying. It's all part of bullying. But it says that he warned that bullying prepares students for war rather than peace. And it says, speaking to about 2,000 Italian teachers, educators, and parents, Francis stressed his message against bullying, asking the audience to pledge to fight against it, both at school and at home. It says the pontiff praised educational efforts at schools to promote peace, noting that, quote, imagining peace lays the foundation for a more just and fraternal world. And that word fraternal just means brotherly. Through every subject taught and through the creativity of children and young people. So he's saying that, you know, this, you know, if we all just imagine peace, you know, we're going to have peace. Well, you know, what we'd like to offer this world and this, and you know, remember the Pope is a leader of about 2 billion people on the face of this earth right now. So there's a lot of people out there that should be knowing about the Peaceful Solution Program, because it's something that we do offer in schools. It's a program that's already been around for, what, this is 2025? So now what, what's that, 31 years? Yeah, 1994? So what's that, 31 years? Am my math right? Yes? Okay, 31 years. It's been around 31 years, okay? So it's well established, it's well proven, it works, it's effective. So we wanted to let the Pope and the Vatican know that we have a program, you know, that is put together. We don't just have to imagine peace, it can actually become a reality if it's taught. Can you put my slide back up, please? The bottom line on that article says the Pope also called for more dialogue within families, emphasizing that, quote, it's dialogue that makes us grow. Well, it's true that dialogue is important, but what kind of dialogue are we having? Like, what are we talking about? What are we speaking about? If we have dialogue regarding what's written in these moral principles in the peaceful solution, yes, that will be effective. The problem is parents do talk to their children, teachers do talk to their students, counselors sometimes, they have a better understanding of it, but they try to do their best. But you need a moral guideline. You need a foundation to build on that's already there. And the Peaceful Solution has it. It's a moral character education program. It doesn't teach religion, so it can be taught in schools. Okay? Any faith. In fact, who was it? Malik Obama, President Obama's brother from Kenya, he joined up and teamed up with the Peaceful Solution, and he's a practicing Muslim, and he said that this does not offend my faith in any way, shape, or form. So whether you're Muslim, whether you're Catholic, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're, whatever, I think there's about 4,200 religions on the earth right now, according to Wikipedia, it could benefit all of them, okay, if they would all just get a hold of us at our 800 number at the Peaceful Solution, or get a hold of us online. We have people standing by right now that'll help, or sitting by. They could be standing by. But can you put on the next slide, please? Because I have another addendum to this. But see, here's another side of it that we got to look at, that we got to make sure that we got to get corrected somehow, because there's also an article here. Pope Francis hasn't repudiated the Catholic doctrine of just war. Okay, now, the doctrine of just war just means that, sometimes war is necessary. Sometimes you gotta go and you gotta fight. And particularly when it's in self-defense. But that's where, the Peaceful Solution, remember that line? Remember that moral line that's real thin? We don't ever, the one thing that you need to understand about the word moral, as you've learned in the Peaceful Solution, is it ever acceptable to go to war? No, it's not. It's not acceptable to war. It's not acceptable to retaliate. It's not acceptable to get even. Two wrongs don't make a right. Very simple. And see, this is where the Catholic Church and the other religions need to really think about, is when we say that sometimes it's necessary, we just threw out the whole idea of peace. We just threw it out. We just dismantled it right there. Because if war is necessary, then peace can't be fully achieved. If we think that way, it could never be fully achieved. In fact, he says that, the article says, recent comments of Pope Francis that war can never be justified made headlines around the world. That's not exactly what he said, though. Okay, in other words, this is actually a National Catholic Register magazine, so it's not, they're not against the Catholic Church. This is actually one that promotes the Catholic faith, but they're saying that that's not exactly what he said. What he said was that logic of hatred and violence can never be justified. The logic of hatred and violence. But it says, nevertheless, this week's comments are part of a pattern of strong statements against war. And I think in that picture, he's sitting at the Holocaust Memorial, and he was thinking about, all the 6 million people that were killed there in those concentration camps in Nazi Germany when he made these comments. So he was taking a strong stance by making these comments against war. But he says, some have wondered whether that means that the Holy Father has set aside the Catholic tradition on just war teaching. That is not the case. Pope Francis has chosen a different emphasis, but the Catholic tradition on just war remains. It says, Pope Francis says, I believe it's time to rethink the concept of a just war. But he goes on to say, a war may be just. There is the right to defend yourself. Okay, so this is where, again, this is where the fallacy lies in thinking that, sometimes you just have to fight back, right? And is fighting ever the answer? Is warring ever the answer? I mean, we learn in the Peaceful Solution, two wrongs don't make a right, and retaliation does never solve the problem. It only leads to more retaliation. Because even if you win the war, doesn't your enemy always come back eventually? All they do is restock their weapons or build up bigger muscles and get, bigger stick and come after you. So it's just never going to work that way. Okay. And so if we could get all the religions to agree with that, and start working with these fundamental, first of all, we got to get them to understand that moral means not bringing harm to yourself, others, or the environment. If we could get everyone to believe that and to actually agree with that and see it the same way, then we could all come in agreement that it should never be right. It could never be right to inflict harm on anyone, whether with words, whether with weapons or anything, mentally or physically. So if we could get everybody on board with that, then we could achieve peace, so, and we will eventually. Eventually, I think people will see that it doesn't bring peace, but it's probably going to take a lot more, a big experience, Experience is not the best teacher, but sometimes it's required. Okay, so let's go to the next visual. And let's turn over to we're on page, actually, let's go ahead and go back to, we got to do what it all boils down to before we go back to the lesson plan. Okay, so what it all boils down to, let's look at that on page 137. So what it all boils down to in maintaining a positive character is we need to evaluate our choices to see if they're going to maintain a positive character. And you remember what maintaining something means? It means taking care of it and making sure it's in great working condition, correct? Determine your purpose in life and set and achieve positive goals. Determine your purpose. What's your purpose? Is your purpose to help others? Is your purpose to make the world a better world where there's no war, starving, famine, diseases, etc.? Well, if that's your purpose, one of the goals you need to set is, finishing this course, this peaceful solution course, right? And that's a positive goal. It's an achievable goal. Is there any reason anybody here can't achieve that goal? No, you're doing it right now. You come to the classes. It says control your emotions. Control your emotions. Remember, not just your negative emotions like anger, but also your positive emotions have to be controlled as well. Set your mind in advance to make decisions that will maintain a positive character. Stand firm on your moral choices. Don't have an oily spine, or what they call that, where your spine melts in a situation and you chicken out. Stand up for what's right. I'm not talking about chickening out fighting somebody. We don't promote fighting. What I'm saying is don't chicken out on standing up for what's right, even if everyone else wants to go the other way and go against what is right. You still got to stand up in those situations. And yeah, that takes a lot of practice. Believe me, it does. It does take a lot of practice, but you can do it. So stand firm on those moral choices. What is a moral choice? It's one that doesn't bring harm. It doesn't ever think it's justified to strike back in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't ever think that. Now, sometimes we all fall into that at times when we're not on guard and we're not really focusing, like I was talking about on last class, the importance of really focusing on these situations that we're in. Sometimes we just don't really focus and remember the peaceful solution. We just kind of act out. We're throwing out everything that we're learning in that moment, and we're not recalling the pertinent information that was given to us. And we need to do that. We need to, if we really focus on it, we can get through these, and then we can pass the test. Learn from your mistakes, right? Remember, Chris went over what a mistake is, and it's not premarital sex. That's not a mistake. It's not having an abortion. That's not a mistake. These are all choices. Even the abortion people that are holding signs say pro-choice. So they know it's a choice. They don't say pro-mistake. You notice that? So they know it's a choice. They know it's a choice they're making, okay? So if they know it's a choice, let's quit calling it a mistake, okay? It's a mistake to call it a choice. But now that you know, now it's a choice if you call it a choice or a mistake. Okay, so always look for ways you can improve your character. Always look for ways you can improve, okay, your positive character. And then it says, be ready to change negative thoughts into positive ones. And David harps a lot on that, on the attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. You know, be ready in situations that you think are not going your way or are negative in your mind, and look at the bright side. Be optimistic. Just know also that this too will pass. Situations, they come and they go, just like our feelings come and go. You know, we can be feeling bad one moment. 2 minutes later, the phone rings and somebody lifts you up and cheers you up and you feel much better, right? It always changes, you know. That's why, you know, suicide is a bad idea, you know, because the people that commit suicide are feeling depressed at the moment and they're feeling like there's no hope, right? But there is always hope, you know, and they just need to know about that hope, you know, and you're the hope of those that don't have any hope, you know, teaching them the peaceful solution, because there's always a solution to their problem, okay? And hurting yourself, harming yourself, or killing yourself is not ever the right solution. And it says, be ready to change negative thoughts into positive ones, okay? And let's go ahead now, because I said we had the goal of getting through this this lesson today. So let's go ahead and go back to LP 3F in step number 12. It says, conclude the lesson by explaining to students that by applying the various techniques presented in this lesson to their lives, they will maintain a positive character, even in the midst of negative influences and other challenges that pose barriers to development of positive character. Have the class turn to page 138 in their handbook and choose students to read the section entitled What I Have Learned. Encourage students to consistently maintain their character by controlling their thoughts, actions, and interactions with others. Remind them that earning the reputation of being a person of integrity is one of life's greatest rewards. It's one of life's greatest rewards. And it really is. You know how you feel when you make a great choice. You know how you feel when, you know, you get through a situation and you know you did the right thing. You know how you feel about yourself. You feel like, wow, I actually did it. You know, it energizes you and encourages you to do it again. That's why you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it and exercising that character muscle, and eventually you become very strong at it, and it just becomes first nature to you. Not second nature, first nature. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go to page 138, what we've learned, and I've got some visuals here for everybody. Let's go ahead and put up that next visual. So, number one, to maintain a positive character is as important as caring for a very valuable treasure. Okay, so let's say you had a treasure like you see in this picture here, you know, all this gold, you know, who knows how much that's worth. There's probably quite a bit of money there. Would you just leave that laying on the street and unattended? No, you would guard it, man, with your life. You wouldn't do that. You'd put it in a bank somewhere, in a vault. And that's what I used to tell parents, you know, how I'd ask them, I'd kind of test them a little bit on what they value, you know, what's important to them. And they always said, oh, my child's the most important thing to me. You know, my boy or my girl, they're the most important possession I have. They're my treasure. So I would ask them, so where are they at right now? Well, I think they're at the shopping mall. So I would ask them, before I asked them that, I usually ask them something like, so let me ask you this. Do you value your purse? Oh, yeah, I value my purse. I said, would you leave your purse out on the sidewalk and just leave it there and walk off? Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. Well, why not? Well, because I value my purse. You know, I got my credit cards, my cash, and everything's in there. It'd take me weeks to get all that stuff back. I said, oh, okay. So you wouldn't leave it unattended? Oh, no. So where's your child right now? But you said that was your most valuable possession, right? That's what I'm saying. It's not to put them down, it's to get them to think a little bit. Because a lot of times we say we value things, but by our actions and our attitudes, we're not really displaying it. It's not, remember, actions speak louder than words, is what the peaceful solution teaches. Let's go ahead and put that visual back up. So you got to care for your character like a valuable treasure. And that's on page 95. Let's go back to page 95 and let's review that a little bit. This was a long chapter, okay? This was a lot of information. This is one of the longest chapters there are in the peaceful solution. Okay, so remember on page 95, it says, what is your character? It says, what is your most, or maintaining your positive character, what is your most valuable possession? Is it a piece of jewelry that's been in your family for years, or is it something that you have to work for, to earn? How do you care for what you value? Do you allow your friends to misuse it? Do you lend it out without stipulations about how it should be cared for? The likelihood is that if you neglect to care for and guard your possessions, they will be ruined, lost, or stolen. Just like your children will be ruined, they'll be lost, or they can be stolen, kidnapped. They can be ruined with drugs, joining gangs, etc., because you're not taking care of them. You're not watching out for them. So you got to protect them. So it says you guard it as well. Needless to say, when you value something, you take care of it. You guard it as well as make rules to ensure that when others use it, they will also take care of it. It says a positive character is one of the most important possessions that you can own and value. It is the one possession that will yield positive results in your life and in the life of others, but only if you care for and maintain it. And remember, in the end, when it's all said and done, and heaven forbid you pass and you go to sleep, and people, what are they going to remember you for? What are they really going to remember you for? They're going to remember your character. What kind of person you were. They're either going to really miss you or they're going to be really glad you're not there. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, and I've heard some people, I used to go to funerals years back, and I heard a lot of flowery things about people that I knew or did not have a positive character. And, but, nonetheless, you don't down people when they're down, you don't kick them when they're down. But people are going to remember us for our character. That's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember what kind of person we were. So we want to take care of that and maintain that positive character to have people have great memories of us. Okay. And to where they can look back and say, like we do with the author of the Peaceful Solution, we look back on his life, on all his achievements, and all we can think of is all the positive, wonderful things that man did. And all the great things he left us here in these books. All this knowledge. Okay? This is worth more than any of that gold you saw in that picture. Okay? And so that's the kind of character that you want people to remember you for. Okay? He's the best example you'll find on this earth at this time. Okay, so let's look at the next point. What we've learned. Maintaining a positive character will enable me to consistently make right choices in any situation. Maintaining a positive character will enable me to consistently make right choices in any situation. That was found on page 96 and 97. Let's go back there. 96, page 96. And the question of the day, it says, what does it mean to maintain a positive character? And it says to maintain anything is to keep it in great working condition. I should have got a picture of David under a car for that. I should have got a real picture, David's been under my car working the last couple of days. Okay, so I should have got a real picture anyway. But it says is to keep it in great working condition like David does my vehicle. Maintaining your wardrobe, for example, means washing and ironing your clothes on a regular basis. Maintaining a car means regularly putting in gas and oil and tuning the engine. And that's something I've learned. I try to remember, put in the oil. I've already destroyed an engine because I didn't put in the oil. David's laughing right now, but you know, he remembers. And it was the Peaceful Solution van that I didn't put the oil in too. It had all the Peaceful Solution decals on it, and because I didn't put the oil in there, the engine went out. And I told the author who had loaned it to me, that the engine went out. And you know what? He was so kind, he didn't ask me, but he knew. Do you know you're supposed to put oil in there, right? Okay, but I try to do better now that I've learned that lesson. Remember, mistakes and choices. Okay, so the concept of maintenance also applies to your character. So maintaining a positive character means that you must consistently make moral decisions using positive character traits. Consistency is an important part of character maintenance. It shows that you can be relied on to always, regardless of the situation, make positive moral choices. So get this, being able to resist stealing or using drugs or getting high or getting drunk one day, or mouthing off to somebody, retaliating one day. No. Resisting the urge to retaliate or resisting the urge to strike back one day, but then the next day you do it with your mouth or with your hands, fists, that's not maintaining, you're not consistently maintaining the character trait of honesty. I'm sorry, you're not maintaining a positive character if you do that. It says, for example, if someone says that stealing is wrong and they're encouraged by their peers to shoplift from the mall, that person is not consistently maintaining the character trait of honesty. Remember, we have to do it all the time. We can't just pick and choose when we're going to make right choices. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back now. No, go to page 97. It says, the following steps will help you maintain your positive moral character. And this is where we started getting into this part about how to maintain a positive moral character. Remember, the first step was consistently practice self-control. Periodically evaluate your choices to determine your character. And when it says periodically, what does that mean? Monthly, yearly? Anybody know? It says periodically. Yeah, it's like throughout the day, right? Not when let's kind of define that periodically thing there. You should be doing it daily. Discipline yourself and be determined to make right choices. Discipline yourself doesn't mean slapping yourself in the hand with a leather strap, punishing yourself by burning yourself every time you make a mistake with cigarettes or something. No, that's not how you discipline yourself and be determined to make right choices. It's not even talking bad to yourself, speaking negatively about yourself, saying things like, you're so stupid. I'm so stupid. I'm an idiot. Is name calling acceptable in the Peaceful Solution? Okay, so should we be calling ourselves names? No. So if we're name calling even ourselves, we're being disrespectful. We're disrespecting ourselves. And how can we respect others when we don't respect our own self? Okay, so it says, recognize there's a purpose for your life and set positive, achievable goals. And hopefully by now, everyone here knows everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. They're here for a purpose. What that purpose is, that's what you need to determine. What is your purpose? It looks to me like everyone that's in this auditorium and that's joining us online has the purpose of, they want to make the world a better place, starting with themselves, right? Because we got to get our own house in order before we can get everyone else's in order, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to the third slide and what I've learned. It says an important part of developing a healthy self-concept is to think positively and take life in stride with its ups and downs without reacting emotionally. I would like to I don't promote surfing, but you got to ride the wave. Okay, that's the only way I can explain it. You don't have to get on a surfboard to do that. You can just ride the wave. You know, don't try to fight against it. You know, don't just ride it, man. Because if you panic, you're probably going to sink. Just ride the wave, and it'll bring you to shore. Right? Take life in stride, because you already know, are problems going to arise? And some of them can be very tempestuous and violent, like a violent storm, right? Like a hurricane or a tornado or something. But like I told you, in the end, doesn't everything always work out? Yeah, it'll pass, and you'll go on to the next test. If you pass this one, it won't come again, hopefully. So it says an important part of developing a healthy self-concept is to think positively. Okay, it says it's also important to recover from disappointments and learn from your experiences. Recovering. Let's go to page 108. Page 108 is where we looked at that. Self-control in your thoughts. It says self-control begins with learning how to restrain your thoughts. And that means how to control them, you know, like you would restrain a horse with a bridle, right? Whether you realize it or not, you're always talking to yourself. Remember, Chris talked about that self-talk. He says we all do it. We do it all day long. I know I do. Sometimes I do it out loud, like not even purposely. Sometimes I just start talking out loud, and I'm like, what did I just do? But we do it constantly. Thoughts running out of your mind constantly. This process is called self-talk. And no, you're not ready for the loony bin or anything. It just means that you're communicating with yourself. So what have you been thinking and saying to yourself lately? Are you thinking positive thoughts that can help to build and maintain your character? Are you thinking negative thoughts that can encourage negative behavior and ultimately negative character? Remember, it all starts with our thoughts, everything. Both positive and negative thoughts stem from the way you see yourself in relation to the world around you and how you perceive the actions of others. The way you see yourself is called your self-concept. People with a healthy self-concept recognize there's purpose to their lives, and they're able to accept that life does not always go as planned and that there will be disappointments. They take life in stride with its ups and downs without overreacting emotionally. Although certain events can be devastating, they are able to recover and learn from their experiences. And there are very devastating experiences that we all have to go through sometimes, okay? But we should be able to learn from those experiences and hopefully take those experiences and help other people when they're going through those experiences. You know, believe it or not, the things that we go through in our life are actually prepping us for later on to where we can help other people through similar situations. Now we have the experience where we can actually guide someone else through the tough time they're having because we've gone through it ourselves. It's kind of like parents are always telling you, you know, son, don't do that because, you know, if you do that, man, this is what's going to take place. And you're just kind of like, yeah. You know, you're just like rolling your eyes. You know, I don't believe that. You know, but in the end, were you rolling your eyes? Like when you got older, were you rolling your eyes? You were like, man, my mom and dad, they knew what they were talking about. You know, we should listen to our elders. You know, we should listen to our parents. We should listen to our teachers. You know, they're not just telling us these things just to, you know, jab their jaws. You know, they've got the experience. They know what it leads to. Okay. They might not even have the experience personally, but they might have seen other people's results of their negative choices, and they're sharing those with you. So remember, we talked about all these thoughts we can have, like peaceful thoughts, considerate thoughts on page 108 and on page 109, forgiving thoughts, respectful thoughts, and moral thoughts. You know, these are the kind of thoughts we should have to have a healthy self-concept and be a positive thinker, okay? All right, let's go now to the next slide. The next point was the positive character trait of self-control is the ability to stop, think about my options, and then proceed with the right choice. Consistently practicing self-control and discipline are key factors in maintaining a positive character. And there was a whole section starting on page 107, we just went through 2 of those pages, regarding self-control, okay? And that was one of the steps in maintaining a positive character. Let's go over to page 110. It shows the negative thoughts we should be getting rid of. We shouldn't be wanting to have hateful thoughts. We shouldn't want to have violent thoughts. Remember, because these thoughts lead to feelings, and those feelings lead to what? Actions. And then our actions, if they're negative thoughts, and we don't stop those negative thoughts right away, they can lead to negative consequences. Unforgiving and revengeful and immoral. Those are the thoughts we don't want to have. Let's go over to page 112, where we talked about self-control in our emotions. And particularly, this focused on the emotion of anger, okay? And it said, everybody gets angry. It's how you choose to deal with it that determines your character. So notice, if you get angry, that doesn't mean you have a negative character. It just means you got angry. It's how you handle your anger that determines if you have a positive character or a negative character, okay? Uncontrolled negative thoughts can lead to emotions that can be damaging to yourself and others. Just like your thoughts, your emotions can be positive or negative. Second paragraph says one of the most potentially damaging emotions is anger. Anger simply tells you that something is occurring you disagree with. But when anger is uncontrolled, it can lead to feelings of resentment and bitterness. That's where you're holding it in. That's where you're storing it. That's where you're allowing anger to rest within you. That's what you don't want to do. Because if you keep doing that and you just let it keep festering, have you ever seen a volcano where the magma, starts rumbling a little bit? The mountain, the scientists know when that mountain's getting a little bit of activity. You start hearing that rumbling sound. They detect low frequency, maybe a 1.5 or a 2.0 earthquakes rumbling underneath. They're like, oh, sounds like that thing's waking up, right? And then next thing you know, they start to see a buildup of magma. I think they call it magma, lava and stuff. And pretty soon, the dome opens up, and then you see smoke coming out, and pretty soon, boom, the whole mountain blows. This is the same concept as storing resentment and hatred and anger within yourself. What's going to take place if you don't deal with it? It's going to blow, okay? Don't fool yourself. It blows in many different ways, shapes, and forms. So it says being able to control your anger. Oh, it also says that it can also turn to rage. Rage can be destructive and harmful to oneself, others, and property. And that's where a lot of people get anger mixed up. They think, well, they always, like when you look at posters online, if you type in anger on Google, you'll have some guy going, or some smoke coming out of someone's ears, and like they're enraged. Well, that's a form of anger, but it's like way up at the top. Okay. That's not, you can get angry, remember, and you can get angry and you can tell somebody, I feel really angry right now about what you just did. I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that in the future. Remember, that's a healthy way of dealing with anger, just by telling somebody. Remember using I statements? Remember all we learned about that, about in the anger chapter of the self-control unit, chapter 3. Okay, so look on page 113. It says, here's an eye-opener at the bottom. Angry thoughts and feelings can affect you physically. Studies have proven that anger that is stored can affect internal organs like the liver and the heart and other organs. This can lead to cancer and other diseases. Dis-ease. Anger, if it's stored within yourself, causes dis-ease within your body and in your mind. So that's why it's important to deal with it. Look on page 114. Determining Your actions determine your character. If you act only on negative thoughts and emotions without considering how your actions affect yourself and others, you're not maintaining a positive character. So self-control requires you to stop, think, and weigh the consequences of your actions. And then on page 115, we showed how you can change the way you think. And it showed the hot thoughts versus cool thoughts. You can use cool thoughts to eliminate the hot thought that you're having. Like, if you're thinking, I hate when people do this to me, you can replace that thought by saying, this is making me upset, but I can handle it. Okay. And that can cool you down. That will throw water on the fire. It won't throw gasoline on the fire or some other kind of combustible material. So let's go over to page, well, that was it for that. Let's go to the next visual. The next one, and what we learned, is about setting our mind in advance. It says, setting my mind in advance will help me to resist negative influences and stand firm on my commitment to make right choices. Now, let's see. Well, remember everything starts with thoughts, right? Okay. So, what kind of thoughts would you be having if you're wanting to do something wrong? Well, we know it's negative, but which one of those thoughts we just went over? Go back to page 110. Go back to page 110. Because it tells us right here, here's the key. On the bottom of page 110, it says immoral. Immoral thoughts are those which focus on risky behavior. Like, I know if I just do this one time, it's not going to hurt anything. If I just sleep, I know she loves me. Or she's thinking, I know he loves me. One time won't hurt. Hey, and your mind's telling you, hey, steal that candy bar. Nobody's looking. Hey, Walmart makes billions of dollars. They're not going to miss that umbrella. Right? Those are immoral thoughts. These thoughts can lead to premarital sex, theft, and illegal use of drugs or alcohol. For example, I know he loves me. It would be okay this one time, or everybody else is getting high. These thoughts can leave you feeling lustful, dissatisfied, discontented, and frustrated. I would have known that years ago, like when I was in my, well, he isn't as old as me. He's a little bit behind me, but Chris said he never used drugs. So not everyone is doing drugs. So that thought we're having, everybody does it. Everybody gets high. It's not true. Not everybody's doing it. We're just thinking that. We're just wanting to justify ourselves by saying that to ourselves so we'll feel better about our choice. Okay, so if we reject that immoral thought and we replace it with the positive thoughts that we went over on the previous pages, we're going to make a better choice because our thoughts is where it all starts, okay? Can you put the visual back up one more time? So let's go to page 125 about setting our mind in advance. Page 125. It says a key step to developing the character trait of discipline and maintaining your positive character is to set your mind in advance to make positive moral choices. Setting your mind in advance means to predetermine that you will not be influenced to do anything you know is wrong. In other words, you can decide to never intentionally take part in any action that is immoral. That includes if somebody slaps you in the face, not thinking that you can defend yourself. You know how you can defend yourself? Run. Turn and walk away. I did it. I told you. I told the story. I think David knows this story. It's a kung fu story. It was either I could be kung fu and Mr. Hollywood, or I could run. And that was one night. It was 3 a.m. I just pulled up in Houston, Texas, to my place I resided at, and I was getting my groceries out of the back of my vehicle, and I had 5 or 6 bags. Those plastic bags you can get a lot in your hand. And all of a sudden, I see 2 characters over here, walking toward me, looking like they're wanting to rob me. And it was dark, and it was no one else around. And I was like, oh, no. Like, what do I do? And the only thing I could do at that second was run as fast as I could to the front of my car with all my bags. And they just looked at me like, how did that guy get up there so quick? Like, whoa. And then I seen them looking at each other, you know, talking a little bit. And they said, no, let's go. Because I guess they thought, you know, I wasn't going to be easy bait. But no, I could have taken my bags and slung them and started fighting with them and, you know, try to, you know, be Mr. Hollywood, right? How do you think that might have turned out? I know in Hollywood it always turns out great for the guy that, you know, tries to retaliate. He turns out to be some kind of great fighter or something, but it wouldn't have turned out great for me. Those guys looked like they were ready to do some business, but they were just shocked at how quick I moved. And they just decided, nah, let's go, you know. And I hope these guys got help, you know, because they really need it. So it says, set your mind to make those positive moral choices. And it says that setting your mind in advance will give you the courage and confidence to deal with negative influences. And at that time, I was teaching the peaceful solution to people in prison, and I was telling them that they didn't have to retaliate. So that wouldn't have been great if I would have retaliated, and then in the newspaper it came out that peaceful solution instructor retaliates, and everybody's reading about my escapade there. That wouldn't have looked great. Okay, so it says, these situations can put you on the spot, and in the spur of the moment, you might impulsively make a choice you could regret. Or by not knowing what to say, you could give the other person time to talk you into doing something that will only bring you embarrassment and pain in the future. Setting your mind in advance and recalling the pertinent guidance based on what you've learned in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, and knowing what to say and do in situations that could influence you to make wrong choices will enable you to maintain your positive character and preserve your life and possibly the lives of others around you. So let's go to the next visual. So it says, maintaining a positive character means that I should avoid making choices that will lead to risky behavior. And again, back on page 10, if you want to engage in risky behavior, that means you're having immoral thoughts. So what do you need to extinguish? The immoral thoughts, right? You can't ever think, I could get away with it this one time. Or, you know, it's not going to hurt if I just do it once. Okay, like this boy here jumping this Grand Canyon on his bicycle here. You know, it might as well be the Grand Canyon to him, you know. You know, if he didn't pedal hard enough, he might not land on the other side. He might go straight down into that canyon there, right? These are the kind of foolish things we do. I mean, I used to do stuff like that when I was young. I told you. I watched Happy Days. I watched Fonzie try to jump 10 trash cans, and I did it on my bicycle in front of my mom, and my mom was horrified looking out the picture window and my friend pulling me on his motorcycle. I'm holding the back of his motorcycle and holding my bike at the same time so I can get going real fast, and I hit that board, and somehow or another I made it over those 10 trash cans, but I landed on the front tire and almost went head over. Something corrected it, and here I am. I don't know how. But you think my mom was scared when that tire hit the front of that board and it wasn't quite level? It didn't work out well for Evel Knievel either. I think he broke a lot of bones too. It's really stupid to practice risk-taking behavior, you know, any kind at all. Okay, so let's put that slide back up. I got to remember what page we need to go to. So we covered all that on page 110, 111, 114, 125, 129. Let's go over to 114 and see what's there. 114. Your actions, okay, we went over that already anyway, but let's go over to page 129 and see what's there. It might have more information here about this risk-taking behavior. Oh, that's talking about making mistakes. And Chris went over that pretty thoroughly. But on page 128, it also talks about preparation, being prepared. Like when somebody, you know, when somebody when you're in a situation, the real deal, like somebody offers you drugs or somebody wants to do something with you that you shouldn't do, that's immoral, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Preparing yourself is the key. Being prepared for the test. Remember, those are called tests. And just like school tests, if we don't study, if we don't be prepared, we can fail in that moment of testing. So look on page 136. That was about, well, that's about reputation. We're going to get to that anyway. But remember, risk-taking behavior is any kind of behavior that could end up ruining your reputation, ruining your health or somebody else's health, ruining somebody else's life, or ruining somebody else's reputation. Remember what David talked about gossiping about others? Spreading lies and rumors and innuendos and slander against other people? That can ruin their reputation. That can ruin other people's lives. People have taken their own lives because people talked about them and spread false lies and rumors about them. Okay, so remember, it's not just yourself. You also have to be looking out for other people in these situations. Risk-taking. A lot of times when we think of risk-taking, we think, investing a large amount of money in the stock market, or, deep sea diving with sharks or something, that's risk-taking, yes. But it's also risk-taking when we do anything that we know could lead to some kind of trouble in our life and that goes against a peaceful solution in any way, shape, or form. If we've been taught against it, and we think somehow or another we're going to bend the rule or get around it, that's called risk-taking. And it's not going to end up well, because isn't there always a consequence for actions that are immoral or wrong? There's always going to be a consequence, whether it's immediate or later. We're going to suffer that. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. Along with having a purpose, I should also have positive, realistic goals that will motivate me to succeed and are beneficial to others and myself. That's on page 131. Let's turn over there, page 131. It talked about goals. Where there's purpose, there must be goals. It says, along with having a purpose, you should also have positive, realistic goals that will motivate you to succeed and that are beneficial to yourself and others. A goal is an end that you strive to attain. Having a purpose without setting goals is like running a race with no finish line. Think of your goal as a target that you direct your efforts towards. Having purpose and goals will keep you focused on maintaining a positive character by giving you direction and stability. Here's what it all boils down to. To accomplish a goal, you must take the time to plan the steps that you will need to attain it. Having goals and no plan is much like saying you want to go to college, but you don't want to study, turn in your assignments, or attend class regularly. Having a plan of action will tell you specifically what you need to do to achieve your goals. The key to success is taking action to complete your plan. So remember, write down your goals. Chris is really big on telling us that, reminding us of that, to write down our goals, because it gives us an idea of the progress we're making. It's like having a to-do list and you're marking things off as you go along and you're thinking, man, I'm actually making progress. You feel better about yourself when you do that. When you see that you're actually achieving those goals. And then you can set more goals too. Don't think you can't just keep adding to it. So finally, let's go back to the next slide. The last thing we learn in this chapter, I'm sorry, not that one. Go back to the one before that. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm on the wrong page. That's what the problem is. Okay. What about reputation? Where was that? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. I was on the wrong page and I was looking at something else. Okay. So the last thing we learned in this chapter about reputation, it says, my reputation is how others perceive me based on my attitude, actions, and choices. That's on page 135, where it talks about, you remember, have you ever been introduced to someone and his or her first comment to you was, I've heard a lot about you. Does it make you nervous? Do you wonder what the person's heard? Well, guess what? Your reputation precedes you. And remember, we learned that reputation is how others perceive us based on our actions, attitudes, and choices. And if you've gotten into the habit of making poor choices, including ones that are immoral, and you display a poor attitude, you're going to earn a bad reputation. But if, on the other hand, you consistently make responsible moral choices, you will earn a positive reputation. See, it's pretty simple, right? Positive leads to positive results. Negative leads to consequences. So on the third paragraph, and the third paragraph says, the irony is that it takes time to earn a positive reputation, but a negative reputation can literally be earned overnight. For example, you can earn the reputation of being a responsible person by completing all tasks over a period of time to the best of your ability and by being accountable for your actions. On the other hand, one act of sleeping around can earn you the reputation of being easy. Shoplifting just once can earn you the reputation of being a thief. And once a bad reputation is earned, it can be very difficult to change the way others see you. So remember, your reputation is either going to create barriers for you or it's going to open doors for you, okay? So remember all those great things we learned. This is a very long chapter. You can go back over it too in your free time. I didn't get to cover every little aspect of it, but let's go to that last page, last slide. It says at the bottom of what we've learned on page 138, it says, maintaining your character is like maintaining a car. If you fail to care for it, it's going to break down. And I don't know about you, but I don't like pushing vehicles, okay? But that's what you'll be doing. If you don't take care of your character, it breaks down. You end up somewhere you don't want to be, okay? Some kind of repair shop called a prison, a jail, or something like that, a hospital, right? We can avoid all those things by making positive choices. And finally, show that last slide. I want to remind everyone, on page 141, you have to take your students to the student post-assessment. The post-assessment has to be done with your students after every chapter to gauge. Remember, there's a pre-assessment at the beginning to see what they know before you've taught them the lesson. And then at the end, as you see here on page 141, there's a post-assessment test to see how much they know now. And guess what? They always feel so much smarter at the end. They're like, wow, man, I learned a lot. When they do that post-assessment, they're really surprised at how much they didn't know, and they're also shocked at how much they actually learned, okay? So do that post-assessment. It's very important. So the next class is going to be on 1/8/2025 at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We hope you'll join us. It should be Catan, the next teacher. It's been great seeing everyone here. We'll see you next time.